Yeah. Okay, Genesis 7:1. And the Lord said unto Noah, Come thou and all thy house into the ark. For thee I have seen righteousness before me, and this righteous before me in this generation. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens, the male and the female, and the beasts that are not clean, two by two, the male and his female. And the fowls also of the air by servants, and the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the earth, face of all the earth. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and every living substance that I have made I will destroy from off the face of the earth. And Noah did according unto all that the Lord commanded him. And Noah had 600 years old when the flood of the waters was upon the earth. And Noah went in, his sons and his wife, and his sons' wives with him, unto the ark, because of all the waters of the flood, of clean beasts and of the beasts that were not clean, and the fowls of everything that creepeth upon the earth. There they went in 2 by 2 unto Noah into the ark, and male and female, as God had commanded Noah. And it came to pass that after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. Years of hearing about the ark, and here we're studying almost 4 weeks on the ark. But there's a lot to it when you really dig into it. It's not just building a boat, getting the animals, and floating around and landing on a mountain. I mean, there's an awful lot to it. The principle of today's lesson is to understand that those who obey God will be safe. And that can turn to this generation that we're in as well. There's a lot of things happening upon the earth and being said and being done, leading us all into the coming of the Lord. But some of that time frame, we need the protection of the Lord to guide us and keep us safe. And also, to obey God and under different circumstances, and God will take care of us and keep us safe. One of the things that really have come up in the last couple of days is the president is over in France to give his presentation to 100 years since the end of the First World War. But the leader of France gave a speech, I guess it would be yesterday, indicating that why doesn't the European nations break away from the United Nations and have get their own army together? And this is all falling into God's plan. We really can't do a whole lot about what the world's doing, but as long as we do what we feel we should do in our own community and stuff like that. But it's very evident that if you listen and pay any attention to what the news is, you can see that the end time is moving upon us very quickly. Now, we all would love to be here when the trumpet sounds and away we're gone. Some of us will be, some of us might pass away before that, but it's very close. And you can put a lot of that into the class that we have, the safety in the ark is today's class, but it also ourselves being protection of everything in the end times as well. Working with the quarterly here, the God's invitation to Noah, and then gave him a list of preparations, what he had to do. And so what happened, Genesis 7:1, here's an example of a faithful servant of God. The 120 years God had said he would wait were now about over, and Noah put the finishing touches on the ark. And during all these years, he had probably answered millions of questions, thousands of questions from the people around him. What are you doing? And, you know, it's just like you could be walking along and you've come along to somebody that you've known for years, haven't seen them, and, you know, you've had something happen in your life, and the example that God took care of you is a chance for a testimony. You know, just as if these people asking Noah, what are you making this foolish looking, whatever this thing is you're making, you know, and he answered with it truthfully, I'm making an ark. And you can see the people that didn't even know what an ark was. You've got to remember, up until now, it has never rained on the earth. The morning dew has been the water that watered the plants and everything. And they'll, you know, what do you need an ark for? Well, we're going to have a flood. You know, what's a flood? Everybody's asking him questions, and he could very well say, you know, you don't understand. But, you know, I think Noah and his people were doing what God told them to do, and this is one of the reasons why God found the righteousness in Noah, because he kept the faith. And I think we've all heard that expression many, many times, keep the faith. But I feel that Noah and his family did, because instead of being made fun of and everything, and made light of what he was doing and how foolish it looked, he just kept on building. And Genesis 6:8 tells us that Noah found grace in God's eyes, and that explains that he walked with God, and he listened to God, and his life was planned around God. Yep.
Don't you suppose that he and his family tried to explain to those people about God and tried to have them realize their salvation?
Could have very well been.
That's like today. God is giving people today an opportunity to get their stuff together and accept him to be ready for the rapture. But everyone says, oh, rapture, rapture, we heard rapture.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, it's just, you know, walking the, go ahead.
I have no idea where people come up with 120 years.
Yeah.
The scripture said he was 500 years old when God told him to build the ark.
Mm-hmm.
Right here in your text, verse 6, it says he was 600 years old when he went in.
When he went in it couldn't
have been 120 years. No way.
That's right. I never thought of that, but you're right.
But
Yeah.
you notice in verse 1, the Lord says, come. Evidently, God was in the ark.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I tell Phyllis, come here, Phyllis.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm at.
Yeah. It. Yeah. But you know, not, not because we don't know exactly, but just imagine the number of the years that there have been animals now on the earth, strewed all over the earth and around the earth, and they got to get rounded up. Now, I believe, this is just me, that God spoke to the pair that he wanted, and those are the ones that were showing up that were to go into the ark. Now, maybe there were wranglers out there that brought them up or whatever, but I feel God brought the animals to Adam to name, and I feel it's the same God that brought the animals to Noah and to put them in the ark. Now, Noah knew what he had to put in, whether it was clean or unclean, the number, so that probably there was incidents where other animals tried to get in, I don't know. But just loading these, and this this is a commentary book that I've been using a little bit, but one of the things that it says is, I got to put my cheaters on. Fine print. It says chapter 6, 19, 20 through 21, in 7:2, it explained that 7 pairs of clean animals, but only 1 pair of the unclean were to be taken into the ark. Some had calculated that there was room in the ark for 7,000 species of animals. Now, that's not 7,000 pairs. This says species, which means an ox is an ox, but there were 2 oxen that had to go in, so it could very well have been more than that number. But, and you just notice how many animals we see in the pastures around here where there are thousands of dairy cows and stuff. But just picture them all in a line going to a place for protection. And that's what Noah was doing here. And it was a gigantic task to build the ark, gather the animals, and also gather the food. And Noah and his three sons could not have done it alone. Being the grandson of Methuselah and the great-grandson of Enoch, he may, as the Babylonian tradition says, been in what they call a city king. Now, we studied in a lesson a couple of weeks ago that there were also, after Cain was left, they made some kings which were city kings. And it may have employed thousands of the men to do the work. They may have been the best part of the 120 years in doing and bringing it together. Now, they have the 122. Undoubtedly, the subject is was increase in the ridicule and very painful in the faith of what he was doing, because all of this taking place takes time, and here they were coming down the road with all these number of animals and stuff. So the biggest thing is that we know that Noah and his wife, his 2 sons, and they're taught that in church, because it's always been Noah and his wife, 3 sons and 3 wives.
Well, the New Testament says there was only 8.
What's that?
The New Testament says there was only 8.
New Testament said there was only 8. So there would be just Noah and his wife and the 3 sons and their wives. So, and you know, once they got themselves situated and they were told to go into the ark, then the animals, because they came, each pair was to be one male, one female. And this is the first time in the biblical record that God specified a difference between a clean and an unclean animal as well. You know, we, in the scriptures before that. And also, this is the first time in the Bible that the word righteousness was used, because that's what, because of his righteousness in the midst of the generations of people. It's the first time this word is used in the scripture, and it is descriptive of the character of this man who had been so consistently walking with God. So the next thing that the people were hearing was a promise of rain. Now we all know that up until this point, it had not rained at all. Yeah. Yeah. And you can just see how the people would ridicule and be, yeah. And see, they also in a way were surrounded by water, because there was the Mediterranean Sea, the Black Sea, all the bodies of water was there, but it was the dew of the morning that raised the products of the.
I read that.
Yeah.
I understood that. I never once thought
That it hadn't rained. Yeah, and then God now is explaining in detail exactly what he's about to do. He gave Noah a 1 week's notice that the rain was coming, and it would be last for 40 days and 40 nights. Now, Genesis 2:5 states that after creation, that the Lord had not caused it to rain upon the earth. And verse 6 said, and they went up in a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. You know, God has his way of doing things, and here he was, he's able to make the dew come up from the ground to keep everything moist, and but now he knows that not that he really wants to, but he's going to destroy the earth, because the people have not taken and done to worship him or anything. So what would make the rain new and an unknown phenomenon to Noah and everyone else. You know, it's like one day when Jesus asked the Pharisees when the kingdom of God would come. He pointed to a spiritual inheritance of Noah's day. Perhaps people did eat and they drank and married wives. They were given in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark. And the flood came and destroyed them. It is clear that no one believed Noah at that time. They were still living their sinful ways and doing their sinful things right up until the rain started coming down. And we've all, I think, seen movies and stuff where people are pounding on the side of the ark and they have to come in. And I think that could have happened. I mean, people that maybe knew what they should be doing, but they're still doing their sinful ways, and all of a sudden the rain stopped coming out of the heavens, and they're immediately saying, what he's told is happening, see if I can get on board. It's exactly like the end time. That
There are a couple things that really stand out in these scriptures to me. First of all, what made Noah righteous in the sight of God? That stands out.
Yeah.
What makes him that way? And I think Brother Steve mentioned that when we were talking about able sacrifices. The second thing I think that caused that was Noah believed God
Mm-hmm.
and built an ark. So because he believed God, it was imputed unto him to have faith. Okay.
Right.
Then the second thing that occurred to me was, how do we distinguish between the clean beast and the unclean?
Yeah.
Now that's caused me a problem. I mean, how does God determine the unclean from the clean? I mean, animals are animals.
Animals are animals.
Well, they were maybe not spotless, the perfection of by now. You can look at that old thing out there and tell it.
Well, I think as you go on through the Bible, especially over into the scriptures in Leviticus, like an ostrich is an unclean bird.
Right.
We eat an ostrich.
Mm-hmm.
Chickens are unclean, but we eat them.
Right.
They not me too, turkey.
I believe that what God did was, it was unclean for them at the time because of no refrigeration. Because he didn't want to get them people out there in the desert and get salmonella poison off chickens, trichinovirus that hogs can get that we know about now because they didn't have that knowledge. So he was actually protecting them by telling them what they could and couldn't eat, because without the refrigeration it would have killed, it would have made them sick. So I think in God's looking forward, that's why later on he told them what I call clean, not clean, because he was preparing for, he told
Mhm.
Peter he was preparing for the day because we have refrigeration and knowing the population would increase and we'd need food to keep everybody alive. That's
Now,
Yeah, but Brother Steve, why would the Lord say this description? You can eat an animal that has a split hoof that chews its cud. Well, a hog doesn't chew its cud, but it has a split hoof.
split hole.
A camel has a split hoof, but it don't chew its cud. So we can't eat these things, but we can eat a cow because it has a split hoof and it chews its cud.
Yeah.
Well, same thing with Brother Steve said over there. They didn't have refrigeration for eating cows.
Yeah.
But you can take a piece of beef and you can put it in the sun and it'll dry, it'll make beef jerky and it won't kill you. You take a piece of hog meat and you put it out in the sun and it gets trickling and you eat it and it dries out and you eat hog jerky, it's gonna kill you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it.
Because just like he said, chewing the cud, if it didn't eat anything but natural things, not, a hog will eat anything. It'll eat a person if you throw it in there every day. I mean, and a chicken will eat anything. So I think it was just the species that, like the cow, just eats grass. So will be.
Yeah. But I mean, these are things that God told Noah to do, and I think when he has a pair of one type and 7 of the other, I think on the journey while the ark is floating, some of them 7s were depleted because of food. That's just another me thinking. But it,
Until after the ark, man did not eat meat.
well, yeah, if that,
They ate seed.
Where does that, how do we know that? Until after the ark.
Yeah, after the ark, God said, I give you all this for food, and now we can eat meat. But not before the ark.
well,
I mean,
I mean, even if they're you got 7,000 species of animals, regardless, and they're all sizes. Where is the food stored in the ark for these? Because I mean, I think the Lord put a lot of them in a stall and kind of like put them to sleep. They didn't run around much or anything or whatever. But I mean, these are. God, that's a good way to put it.
One of the things I remember now, to me, by reading the previous scriptures, everything was mostly the same kind of diet.
Mm-hmm.
So all Noah had to do was more or less get the same kind of food on the ark to feed everything, including himself.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
He had to plug in and get the cows, wheat, the lions, and, things like that. That wasn't
Because they all were eating vegetable. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
we had to get one type of food for everybody.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, these are things that mess up my mind because I get to thinking, and I shouldn't be thinking quite so much. But we've got the ark built. We got Noah and his family in there. We got the animals in there, and now it's time for the storm. And what's that? Yeah.
9:3 specifies it. Chapter 9, verse 3. We're in 8 right now, or no?
Mm-hmm.
We're in 8, chapter 8, or chapter 9?
Yeah.
7. Chapter 9 specifies what Pastor Joe's talking about, verse 3.
In Genesis 7, more details are given in the 600th year of Noah's life, and in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up and the windows of heaven opened. That's telling us that water came up from the earth as well as it came out of the heavens down on the earth. I mean, the ark, because it is sealed up, sealed by God, and even the window that they have up there, I don't think they have it open for any special reason. I think everything is sealed up. And, the ark goes up, and the rain was upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. It's hard to imagine that the earth as we know it now completely underwater, because now Florida doesn't have any mountains, and you could see Florida going underwater. But if you lived up in the Northeast or in the northern part of Canada or the Rockies, and then you look at the Alps and all of them, as the height of them, now there might be a possibility that God didn't have to go over the top of something if no people were there. If no people was there, he didn't have to flood that out.
But the Bible said it went above the highest mountain.
It does say it went above the highest mountain, is right. And because we know that that's in Nepal, I believe, is where the tallest mountain is at this point. And that's not too far from Turkey, not too far from where Noah came back down. And
If you came down on the Mount Ararat, and that area of the world is the highest mountains,
yeah,
then it was above those mountains would come down on those mountains.
yeah. And as we see floods around here today, you have a flood in an area, it runs down a river and eventually out into the ocean. Well, if the earth is covered with water, is what it was, because that's what God said he did. And when the ark stopped moving, and I think that's when Noah knew that he was was somewhere on land is when the ark became rested upon something, because it, and we know that it did. It was on the side of the mountain there. And, and then whether he got the word from God or whatever, it was time to send out the doves and pigeons or the animals that he used. They all, as the water went down, there's a lot of animals that are on the ark that need to get out to get their food and everything. So it really is kind of like mind-boggling. And when you stop and figure, you could send out the ducks, they won't have a problem, and stuff like that. But when you got big cattle and stuff that are all sitting there waiting to get off, and God's plan is just unbelievable. I mean, we can put all the twists to it that we want, but God can do what he needs to do and what he wants to do and how he does it. And we don't have to know exactly how he did it. We don't have to understand it, but we do have to accept it. And so the biggest problem is accepting it, because it don't affect us, so to speak. We don't get ourselves in that situation. That was them. But our life is just like a floating ark. Each one of us has our own little problems and everything, and we have to take them to God and believe in God, and believe that once we give them to the Lord, he'll take care of them. And a lot like the song that Vaughn plays a lot of the time, it's not in our time, it's in his time. And it does make, you have to feel good about it. And, you might see someone that's sick, and you're thinking of that person and say, well, why don't God heal him? He ought to heal him. The guy does this, he could do this. But, you have to change your thinking a little bit. Now, at least that's what I think you have to do, is change your thinking a little bit. And once you leave it in God's hand, and really leave it in God's hand. Now, God never asks us to forget our situations, but he does tell us to trust him. And so leaving it in God's hand is such a rewarding thing, because whether the person is healed or not, it really doesn't matter, because it's God that needs the credit of whatever. And that's a hard thing for us to do, is being people that we know everything. We know, that's the way lifestyle is. Supposedly you know everything. But you got to remember that our life is totally controlled by the Lord. It's the whole earth and everybody in it. Yep.
It's just my particular perspective, Brother Art, but I look at it, God heals everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a question when he gets ready to do it, and that's up to him. He's either going to do it in this life, or he's going to do it in the next life. But either way, you're going to be healed.
That's right. Yep. And you have to be ready to accept that.
Well, Brother Art, there's a lot in this. Man, I tell you, we could go into this for a week, talk about things. When you consider that the earth was covered with water for close to a year,
Mm-hmm.
quite a year. And I've been around flooded fields and things like that. And generally, the water lays on the field, it will kill everything in your field, grass and everything.
Right.
So you have the earth covered with water for almost a year. It would have seemed like everything that was in the earth at that time would have been destroyed and killed. But when Noah lets out a dove, it comes back with an olive branch.
With an olive branch.
That olive branch, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because everything's
Yeah.
I mean, it kills everything.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing but a mud ball. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Underwater for almost a year. There's a lot that we really don't understand.
we don't really understand. Yeah. And it's it,
It seems like what the Bible's insinuating is that when Noah comes off the ark, everything's green.
mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
but God, well, God's God. He could be.
He's told that fig tree, remember that fig tree said, you're cursed, you will not grow again, you'll die, and it shriveled up. If he can do that, why can't he say, everything grow now?
It's almost that as when that door opened in the ark, all the vegetation was available for them all to eat. You know, yeah, and it's almost like, you know, we know that God can do whatever it need to be, but it's hard when you, the human that you are and what you've been through, what you see, and how things grow and everything.
How did the children of Israel go through the fire and the forest got burned off and they heard it, they didn't get the smell of smoke?
You gotta believe it's
That's the kind of God we're talking about.
Yeah. So it's really is it really is mind-boggling, because you can look at, I mean, just picture standing there and all these animals are to go in. Now, who puts what where? But you know, I don't think that time where I think they were just went into the ark, and they went to where they were supposed to be. But I mean, but if you tried to put an old mule in a stall and you've never been in a barn, you're going to work a little bit. But you know, God's control of everything. You know, I mean, you could be 120 years trying to get the donkey in. But I mean, there is so much in this that you just have to get to the point where you say, I understand, Lord, and thank you very much. Because if you try to analyze everything that goes with it, you know, and it's just like, I believe there will be a time when the ark will show up. Now, I know even this concordance claims that Russia saw it during the 1940s because there was an earthquake in part of it. But I think God's going to prove to the people what his story has been. And I don't want him to hold me on this earth till it happens, but I think it will happen, my feeling, that ark will show up someday. And yeah, this tells here that there's been signs of it. And I can remember when I first got into church that they had a bad year with snow on the side of the mountain, and people had gone and had got into a portion of the ark. But you know, I think God's going to unveil the ark, let the whole world know this is my boat, and we used it. Now, the same hand that first brought them these the animals to Adam to be named. Now remember, that's the same. God is the same person that brought them to Noah and put them in the ark. And you know, it's just a great story. I mean, it's not a fictitious story. It's a great story that we're able to pass on. But, you know, it brings you a lot of questions. And Noah and his family and all the animals were safe. We too can know such safety in stormy times. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. And I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress and my God. That's a powerful scripture, because it means that we trust and believe and have faith what God's put in the book. You know, and we can take from that and build our lives right on that, believing that. So that's all I have today. Does anyone have any more questions? Or